Hi, welcome back to OKRs Fast, introduction to OKRs. In this session, we'll be going through key results. My name is Richard Russell, in case you're wondering. So far, we've been through why OKRs, what are they, how to use them. That's super important. Keep all of that stuff in mind when you're thinking about key results and think about why we're doing this when we're thinking about key results. We've been through OKR cycles, what the sequence looks like. We've talked about objectives, and now we're getting into the key results and how they look. In some ways, this is where a lot of people want to start, because it's the sort of meaty, detailed part. But I think it's really important to have that background so you know why you're doing this. Because if you don't know why you're doing this, then you can come up with all sorts of answers that don't get what you want done. Okay, so key results. There are these parts down the bottom here, and I've got 4 of them here. I recommend having no more than 5. You could have 2 is good, but usually more than 1 is better. But I mean, 2 to 5 is a great number of key results. The purpose of these key results is to clarify, measure, and empower, right? So they're defining what success looks like. It's not about defining the task. It's not about saying do this, then this, then this, then this, or sort of just pure project milestones, although you can have milestones in a key result. It's about defining success. The reason for this is because the objectives tells us where we're going. It inspires and motivates us, right? It's saying, sets the direction. The key results clarify exactly what we mean. What does success really look like? How do we measure success? Ideally, how do our customers measure success, right? So we're capturing that whole thing. But what's really interesting here from a human perspective is that this is all about empowering people. So when we say what our key results are, we're saying this is the result that I want you to get. And then let's work together. Let's have your ideas. Let's have your engagement and your initiative and your innovation and your energy and focused on delivering and engaged in delivering these key results. What can we do? And what happens when we do this? A famous general once said, "Don't tell people what to do. Tell people what you want done, and let them surprise you with their ingenuity." Right? And so this is really what key results are about. It's about saying what you want done. Right? And people will then engage and surprise you with their ingenuity. Right? So an example like how increased search relevancy score from X to Y. If you're a search engine, there's often a search relevancy score. It's a way of assessing how good the search results are. And you want to increase the score from this to that because that's the thing that matters to your customers. Right? Decrease average page load speed from 0.8 seconds to 0.6 seconds. This is a really common kind of thing for anyone with a website that you might need to do. And it matters because it matters to customers. Customers care about this kind of thing. So that's why you'd have it as a key result. Clearly, by the way, whatever you're doing here, this would be the thing that is the thing that helps you get to the objective, right? So it's hard to assess these in the abstract without knowing what the objective would be, but we'll get to that. Maintain weekly average downtime below 6.6%. This is something that it doesn't matter what it was. We just need to maintain it at this, right? So potentially we're doing things like increasing performance. And while we're increasing performance, we also want to make sure we don't sacrifice reliability. Decrease the onboarding time from 4 hours to 1 hour. And this is the kind of thing where we know that there's a measure somewhere, but this is very much a human thing. Like people are doing some work to become customers and they have to do this work and it takes 4 hours. Maybe you want to decrease that time and that would be a good measure. Another example would be measure the impact on engagement of 4 new features. Now this is one of those slightly strange one in that it doesn't really have a number. I mean, 4 is a number, but it's not really the number that you're measuring. What you're trying to do with this is get some data. So your key result that you're trying to do is to launch these features, have them used enough to be able to measure the impact on engagement and actually get that data so you know what the impact on engagement is, presumably so you can make some decisions in the future or whatever it is. Now you might have something like that where you would say that, for example, if you didn't have search relevancy score and you decided that you wanted to start having it, maybe like measure the search relevancy score for the last week of the quarter would be a good key result. Right, so there's all sorts of different ways of saying these things if that's to define what's important, what success looks like. Another one here, launch native iOS, iPhone app by the earnings call on this date. Now, this is an interesting one because some people really like to not have milestone type things because it feels like a task. In some sense, this does feel like a task and it is a task. And it also doesn't tell you what's a great iOS app, right? Maybe we need some other key results to tell us what's a great iOS app. But you might have this kind of launch here, this with a particular date, because that might be super important to your business. So this is a really critical milestone. You need to launch this app before the learnings call or on the learnings call so that some result happens, right? So that might be a really important thing for your marketing plans. This could be really important for your team. But the point with this is that there's not necessarily, like, people get very prescriptive about how to write key results. I think there are some things that are worth considering, but you should be trying to do the things that are going to make a difference and help. Well, actually, we'll get to how that works in a few slides. But there's lots of different ways of writing these things depending on what you're trying to achieve. One of the things that I think about with key results is that they're results, right? Now, I've got this little diagram here that sort of talks about the different kinds of things that you could be managing. On one end, we have actions. These are the things that people are doing. And in the last video, I'll have an analogy for this with South Park, which you might enjoy. But there's actions, right? And actions create outputs. And an output might be, there's an action of like writing code. The output might be, I have a web page. The result is that people convert more. They buy more product. And the profit is how much revenue I get. Now, what's going on here? And what you really want is to focus your key results on the result part, because that's the business result that you really want, not the profit, because the profit is the output of that, and it doesn't really tell you what you're trying to achieve, right? The profit is like the end result. And what you're trying to do here is delegate responsibility across this spectrum according to maturity. So if you have a very junior team, yeah, you kind of need to go down the level of actions and let's do this and do this and do this. As you have a more senior team, you talk about output. So I want to get this feature done. I want to get this this website, this web page created, or whatever it is. With leaders, whether they're leaders in your teams, in your organization, or your company, you're really talking about results. Like, what kind of results do we want to get out of this? And we'll talk about how to move from action to result and from profit to result as well. Now, profit is the kind of thing that boards and shareholders are interested in. Clearly, CFOs and CEOs are interested in this as well. So lots of people are very interested. But you can't kind of delegate the task of getting profit or getting revenue to people without really talking about the result that you're getting that's going to deliver that. And that's the part that you need to delegate, that result. So what do I mean by this? Let's get into this in a bit more detail. Convert action to result. So if you're thinking about, there's a series of actions that I want to write, and I'm inclined to write my key results as actions, think about, why are we doing this? What's the purpose of this action? How would we know if we were successful? Often with actions, it would be something like I had before, launch this product. What does the successful product look like? Let's write the result about what results a successful product launch would create. How will our customers measure our success? Customers usually don't care about whether you have a web page or not. They care about, does this help me achieve something, and how quickly or how easily or how cheaply or how conveniently does it help me achieve the thing that I want to do? If you're really stuck, think about what alternative actions I could be doing that would get me the same result, and that will help you understand what the result you're actually trying to achieve is, right? So the purpose of this is to really get to the way of encapsulating the result. The reason to do that is because that helps educate the rest of your organization about why they're doing this stuff. Like, what's happening? Why are we doing this? What's the purpose of this action? How do I come up with a better way of doing this action to get the same result? And that's what you want. Because if you're prescribing the actions, if you have a junior team, it's fine. But with most people, if you're prescribing the actions, you're almost stopping them from having good ideas, which is not normally what you want. So the purpose of this is to really empower people to decide which actions are best. So you're trying to write your key results as results so that you can empower people to decide which actions are best, right? And as I say, that really depends on their level of maturity and so on, because very junior people, they don't necessarily have a great deal of decision-making capability, but more senior people do. So you need to have really good results for more senior people. Now, if you're in a situation where you're talking about a profit, like let's have a revenue, let's have a EBITDA, let's have a profit margin, or reduce costs by this much, or whatever it is, and you really want to actually get a bit more specific with this. So here are the things to think about. How are we creating this profit? Like, what's the strategy that gets us to this particular outcome? If you're reducing costs, are we reducing fixed costs, variable costs, per product costs, costs in the operations part of the organization, or costs somewhere else? Like, what kind of costs are we doing, and what's the purpose of this? Like, what's the thing that we're trying to achieve here? What's the value we're creating, that we're capturing? Right? If you think about the profit as the output, what's the input that causes this output? Because the result that you're doing is the input that causes the profit, right? But even in some sense, if you get really stuck with this, profit kind of things are the kinds of things that tend to be the same for different companies. It could be a completely different company, it could be a competitor. They'll often have the same kind of goals for revenue, for cost, for margin, all that sort of stuff, right? what differentiates our strategy from other people in the same sort of industry, right? What are we doing that's different? What's what we're trying to do? Because what we're trying to do is the result that we're trying to create that's going to give us the profit. Okay, so what you're really doing here is trying to narrow down the options to align with your strategy. If you just have let's make a profit, right? It's a great output result. It gives people freedom. It gives too much freedom, and people will then have lots of different ideas about how to get there. So that's how to get to results. Now, hopefully that helps you understand what a key result should look like conceptually. I'm a very conceptual sort of person, so that's the way I like to think. I've got a couple more slides that will get into a bit more detail here. So one of the things about key results is that they're specific. We want current and target values of a key metric, or perhaps meeting a critical milestone. But in whatever the key result is, it should be something that, we talk about this being a result, not an activity or a profit, but it should be something that really helps, that when you have done it, you've done it. There's no debate. We shouldn't be talking about we want to improve our best practices, because how do we know if we've done that, right? We have to have a debate about whether we've done it or not, even once we've done it. But did we do it? If it's your best practice or mine, all that sort of stuff, right? So you want current and target values of a metric, or meeting a critical milestone, such as a customer visible launch. So that's the way to talk about OKRs. To talk about what key results should look like, how they should be specific, right? And what I want to do, the way I like to write these things is basically in a simple word. There's a verb. If you're having a metric, a verb, like increase, decrease, or maintain, this metric from this starting point to this target point. And it's super simple. All you really need to do to think about this is, what's the metric that we're doing? What is it now? What do we want it to be? And then what's the right verb? It doesn't need to be inspiring and really crafted. It just needs to be super clear. Like, make it clear. I want to get from here to there. I want to increase, if you're talking about conversion rate, I want to change conversion rate from this to that. I want to get, have 100 new leads coming in every day, goes from 100 to 150. Whatever it is that I'm trying to do. I want to decrease the onboarding time from 4 hours to 1 hour, right? Or you can have a verb such as create, launch, and deliver this milestone, and the milestone has got to be something critical, right? Now, what people often do, because a key result or objectives and key results are inherently quarter-based, so you normally implicitly have a quarter, but you often would add a date on the end of that to say by this date, because that might be something critical. So that's your introduction to key results. In the next session, we'll be putting it all together, objectives and key results together, and it should all start to make sense. And we'll get through an analogy that I found super useful in helping people to understand what good OKRs look like. It's a South Park analogy. I hope you enjoy it. See you shortly. If you found this presentation interesting and you'd like to see more, there is more. I have on my website all of the video trainings in one easy to access form. Under the video training, you can go to my website. It looks a bit like this, richardrussell.co/OKRs. You'll also find with the video training, when you sign up for that, there's access to PDF guides on how to use this, like cheat sheets almost. We go through a full OKR cycle, a walkthrough of what you need to do when, including some tips on how to set OKRs. There's an email newsletter which will keep you up to date with all the latest content, and including some interviews that I'll be doing with people. And you'll get access to discounted live workshops that will come through the email mailing list. So go to my website and you can get that for free, whoever you are. Now, if you're wanting a bit more, I also do OKR coaching and workshops. So I do these for organizations like whole companies or divisions or large teams, for teams and for individual leaders. But we can do this whether you're already using OKRs or whether you want to start using OKRs, whether the rest of your organization is using OKRs and you want to get started, or whether you're just fresh and you'd like to learn more. The things that I do custom training customized for the organization. I do OKR setting workshops where we set OKRs with you and your team. We do OKR retrospectives, which are super useful for anyone who's already using OKRs and wants to find ways to make them better. And I do direct coaching. I do coaching of leaders. Fundamentally, to me, OKRs are really about leadership. And so that really fits really well together. So if you're one of these and you'd like to talk about having some work done in your organization, your team, or as an individual leader, please get in contact, richardrussell.co/OKRs. Now, if you're a larger organization and you'd like to do a full OKR implementation, I do OKRs implementation and consulting. I use a method that I call FAST, the OKR FAST. The idea is that there's minimal theory. So we don't have a lot more theory than what we've already had here, but we just do have fun, engaging, relevant workshops that are hands-on, all about your business. It's not about some case study or anything like that. It's about your business. And if necessary, we can set up a custom change program with reusable videos so that we're training on the way that OKRs work in your organization, not some sort of generic way of doing things. We can do train the trainers, whatever we need to do, we'll do it focused on your goals, because I take the OKR engagements that I do very much like what I recommend my clients do is focus on the outcome you're trying to get and then figure out what to do. So please get in contact with me, richardrussell.co/OKRs. You'll find me on LinkedIn as well. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks very much.